and welcome to this episode of Learn Everyday English, your roadway to English proficiency. Glad to have you with me again today. I'm in the other studio in the house, and I'm going to be talking about cost of living here in the United States. And is it expensive to live in the United States? How much does it cost? And compared to other countries, I'd like to know your thoughts after you watch this video. Let me know if you think it's expensive to live here. Is it more expensive than where you live, or is it less expensive, or is it about the same? We use this hand expression, about the same. But before we do that, there are 3 things you can do for me. 1, just like the video, subscribe to the channel, and 3, tell your friends about it so that they can benefit from these videos too, just like you. And I want to start off by saying I kind of like this topic. I like to watch videos to see what the cost of living is in other countries, especially say Latin American countries, especially like Mexico. And I was watching a lot of videos about the cost of living, say in Venezuela, because I know they were going through a lot of difficult situations there, and also in Mexico. In July, my wife and I took a 2-week vacation to Mexico. We went to Mexico City and then spent about 2 days in San Miguel de Allende. And I was watching some videos about some that's an Indian couple that lives in Querétaro, Mexico. And it's just a couple, a man and a wife. And the lady was talking and going through all of their expenses. And I was very surprised. She said that they could live off of $800 US a month for 2 people in Querétaro. And then I watched another video of another young couple living in the same city, and their expenses were a little bit more, maybe about $1,000, upwards to maybe say $1,500, which is $1,500. I think they went out to eat a little bit more, quite a bit more. So I thought that's very cheap, because to live here in the United States for $800 a month, or say $1,000 a month, or $1,500 a month for a couple, a family of 2 people, I'd say is pretty much impossible. So, and what really made me do some more research into this topic for this video, as you know, I'm studying Spanish, and I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos. You can say I'm a YouTube junkie. A junkie actually is a person, it has kind of a negative meaning. A junkie is a person that is, we say, hooked on drugs. A person that has to do drugs. They need to do drugs. It's kind of like a bad habit, so we say they're hooked on drugs, or they are a junkie. But if there's something that you really like to do and you find it difficult not to do, we say, hey, you're a junkie for that type of thing. So I could say I'm a YouTube junkie because I just love to, or have to, watch videos on YouTube every day. But I say they're educational and I learn a lot. But I like to watch YouTube channels in Spanish so I can, practice my Spanish listening comprehension. I think it's very good for me. I'm a auditory learner. I learn a lot by listening. But I also learn just a lot of facts and gain a lot of knowledge. But one YouTuber that I like to watch is a guy named Oscar Alejandro. And he's originally from Venezuela, but he's been living in Miami, Florida for maybe 5-6 years. He travels kind of all over the place, we say, different countries around the world. But he was back in Miami, Florida, and he recently did a video about the cost of living. How much does it cost to live in Miami, Florida, which is a city here in the United States on the southeast side of the country. And I was kind of surprised at the cost of living that he outlined, we say, or he listed or described in his video. And I got to thinking, which is an expression I started thinking, I got to thinking, well, how much does it really cost for a single person? Because he was giving his cost estimate based on himself. He's a single person. And so I said, well, how much does it cost for a single person to live in Houston, Texas? Because Houston is a large city, and it's the largest city that is close to where I live. I live in a smaller town about 1 hour north of Houston. So Miami's a big city. So I said, well, let me do some checking and see what the cost of living is for one person to live in Houston, Texas, and I'll compare those costs with the costs that Oscar gave in his video, and do we say a side-by-side comparison and see if there's any difference. And it was a very interesting thing to do, so I learned a lot. But I'm going to start off by going over the costs that Oscar gave in his video for Miami, Florida. So he started off by talking about rent. The rent, which is just the cost that you pay for, say, an apartment. And he said in Miami, Florida, an average cost or rent for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment was about $2,000 a month. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of money. That's expensive. Because here in my city, a small town, I think the average, I thought, say off the top of my head, I'm just maybe kind of guessing or estimating. So we say off the top of your head. I thought maybe like $800, $1,000. So the cost for an apartment in Miami seemed to be about twice as much. So I looked on the internet and I got some average statistics or information. And the average cost of a 1-bedroom, 1-bath in Houston is $1,200 a month. So it's quite a bit cheaper. It's $800 less a month than Miami. But Oscar said, I guess in Miami, due to COVID and maybe other reasons, a lot of people started moving, say, from cities in the East Coast up at north, say New York City, Boston, and they've moved or migrated down to the south to Miami, and that has caused, I guess, the prices and demand for apartments to increase. So that's why it's very expensive now to live in Miami. And he even said, I think, that Miami is, if not the most expensive place to live in the United States, it is one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. Then he went on to talk about how much does it cost to own a car in Miami, or just in general. And he gave an estimate of about $400 a month. And then maybe it's a little bit different here in the United States. The public transportation system is not as good on average, say, in other countries, especially Europe, even some cities in Latin America. So in a lot of places you really need to have a car to get around. And so an average car note, we say a car note, if you buy a car, you have to pay a bank every month for that car. We say that is a car note, so you have to pay your car note. An average car note, he said, was $400 a month, and I agree with him. I'm going to use that same amount of money on my estimate. But I did look on the internet, and it says an average cost of a used car per month in the United States is actually $503 a month. So I guess that $400 a month may be a little bit low, but I'm going to go ahead and use that anyway to make the same comparison with Oscar's numbers. And also the average monthly cost if you buy a new car in the United States is $648 a month. So that's pretty expensive. But car prices are high, are expensive, and they have gone up, especially with the pandemic. And cars in general, are going to cost you $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month. Okay, the next item on Oscar's list was gasoline for your car. And he said that averages about $300 a month. And I looked on the internet, and I think that number is a pretty good estimate. If you work, if you have to drive to work, say 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, so that's 20 times a month. I know before I retired, when I was driving back and forth to work, I would probably have to fill up, say, once a week, so 4 times a month. And say if you fill, it costs you $50 or $60 every time you fill up. Well, that's $240. But sometimes you have to drive on the weekends if you go somewhere else. But I did find another estimate that said the average cost of gas was about $250 a month. So Oscar's number was in the ballpark. We say in the ballpark, or is roughly about the same, $50 more. But I'm going to use Oscar's number of $300 a month on my estimate as well. The next thing that Oscar had on his list was auto insurance, and in the United States you have to have automobile insurance on your car. If not, you cannot get your car inspected, which is a requirement every year. And if you don't have insurance, if you get pulled over by the police, you can get a fine or a ticket. So we say it is a must-have, something you must have or have to have. And he said the average cost of auto insurance is $130 a month, and I think that's a good estimate. I agree with Oscar on that. So as you can see, the cost of living adds up. We say it starts to add up when you live here in the United States. He actually added another item, an expense if you have a car, and that is for tolls. So in certain cities, we have what are called tollways. You have to pay to drive your car on a certain road. And he says he gave an estimate of $50 a month for that. And here in around the Houston area, there are also toll roads. So I'm going to use that same number in my estimate as well, so $50 a month. So I'm going to use the same numbers on all of these items that Oscar had, except for rent. Remember, he said apartment is $2,000 a month. Here I'm going to use $1,200 a month. Okay, the next item on Oscar's list were groceries. Groceries, these are just food items. And I think that also included maybe going out to eat a little bit, but he estimated that at $400 a month. I looked online for Houston area, and I found a number that said $450 a month. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that number for my estimate. The next thing Oscar had on his list of required items is medical insurance. That's very important to have, but here, especially in the United States, as you do not get government insurance unless, say, you are 62 or older, you qualify for Medicare or Medicaid. And he said that, well, you can get insurance through Obamacare, and he estimated that at $50 a month. I'm going to use that number for my insurance because I remember when I worked for the city of Houston, I paid as a single person about $50 a month. That's maybe a little bit deceiving or misleading because when I worked for the city actually paid the majority of your medical insurance costs. So actually it cost me more. It cost more than $50 a month, but the city paid the rest of that portion for me. I don't know exactly how much the total cost for insurance was, but my portion or my share was $50 a month. So I'm going to leave that the same. But I want to tell you one thing and kind of expand on this topic because I think on average, for the average person, especially if you work for a private company, you're going to pay more than $50 a month in insurance. And just for an example, I went to the City of Houston website where this is a company that I worked for 30 years. And they have insurance costs for two groups of people. The first group are current employees, people that are currently working for the City of Houston. And you may be surprised to know or to find out how much insurance costs here in the United States. So for example, if you're one person, single person, the cost, and there are 3 different types of insurance plans or insurance policies you can choose from. One is a lower cost up to a middle, one that has a middle cost and an upper cost. The one that's higher, you have more options, but you have to pay more. The one with the lower cost, you have fewer options, but it's cheaper. But for a single person, it ranges anywhere from $50 a month to $200 a month for insurance. If you're an employee and plus children, I guess it doesn't matter how many children, but employee with children, it costs you anywhere from $150 a month up to $470 a month, depending on which plan you choose. If you're an employee with a spouse, no kids, just employee and spouse, the cost for that ranges from $280 a month to $640 a month. And if you're an employee with a family, so that's employee with a spouse plus children, the cost for that is anywhere from $400 a month to $920 a month. So you can see the cost for insurance in the United States can get very expensive, especially if you have a spouse, if you're married, or if you have children. But here's the next category for insurance costs, and it applies to people like me who are retirees. We call in English retirees, and these are people that have retired from a job. And normally once you retire, your cost for insurance increases because the city is not going to pay, I guess, a portion of your insurance costs anymore. You have to pay either the whole thing or the majority of the insurance costs. So I pay as a single person retiree, I pay $335 a month, and I have the cheapest type of medical insurance. So for just a one-person retiree, the cost of insurance ranges from $335 a month to $670 a month for insurance, just medical insurance. And this doesn't include dental insurance, like for your teeth, or vision insurance for eyeglasses. So that's real expensive. But if you're a retiree employee with children, no spouse, your costs for insurance can range from $536 a month to $1,072 a month. If you're a retiree with a spouse, you pay anywhere from $946 a month to $1,776 a month. And if you're an employee with a family, your cost for medical insurance is $1,147 a month up to $2,122 a month. So to me, that's ridiculous. So that's why the medical system here in the United States needs to change. And that's why a lot of people can work, say their whole life, 30, 35 years, and when it comes time to retire, they can't afford medical insurance. So that's why a lot of people keep working, say until they reach, I think, 62 or 65, I don't remember, I need to check, and they can apply for Medicare. And it's kind of a government-sponsored medical insurance plan, and it's much cheaper. But you have to wait that long. So I don't know if that was eye-opening for you, and it was eye-opening for me how much medical insurance costs here in the United States. All right, one other thing I want to talk about is we went through all of the list of items for expenses for owning a car, but I did find some facts about car ownership here in the United States. And I found that 95% of American homes own a car. So here it's very, very common. We can say everybody has a car, and most families have more than one car. But we can see 95% of American homes or households own a car. 85% of Americans commute or go to work, drive to work, back and forth to work by car, by using a car, and that's because, say, in the majority of cities, there's not a very good or comprehensive public transportation system. There may be buses or cabs, Uber, but a lot of people, it's more convenient. They live in the suburbs, we say, kind of away from the downtown of the city, and there are less options for public transportation. On average, each household has 1.79 cars, and in a 2020 survey, it says 80% of Houstonians, and Houstonians are people that live in Houston, drive to work alone or by themselves in their vehicle. So you can see there's a lot of waste here in the United States, people driving by themselves in their vehicle, in their cars to go to work. So that's just some extra information for you that you might find interesting. So let's continue. Cell phone. How much does it cost for a cell phone here in the U.S.? Oscar said $60, so I'm going to say that's about right. I'm going to go with that. And the other thing that you really need is internet service. Oscar estimated that at $50 a month. I did some checking online. I found maybe an average is more like $70 a month, so I'm going to use that on my estimate. Like I said, Oscar, those were the key items that Oscar had on his costs to live in Miami, Florida. If you add all those up, $2,000 for rent, $400 for car note, $300 for gas, $130 for auto insurance, $50 for tolls, $400 for groceries, $50 for medical insurance, $60 for a cell phone, and $50 for internet. His total cost added up to $3,570 a month to live in Miami as a single person. So my costs were $1,200 a month for rent, $400 a month for car note, $300 for gas, $130 for auto insurance, $50 for tolls, $450 for groceries, $50 for medical insurance, $60 for cell phone, and $70 for internet. So my total for a one-person, single person to live in Houston, Texas is $2,710 a month. So there's a difference of $860 from what I calculated to live in Houston from what Oscar calculated to live in Miami, Florida. And that's a big chunk of money, or chunk of change, we say as an expression. So do you find these numbers surprising? What do you think? Let me know. Leave me a message in the comments. And let me know, how much does it cost a month for a single person to live in your city or in your country on average? I'd like to really know. So if you look at the costs here, I want to make one other comparison and kind of wrap the video up. But you say, okay, well, people in the United States make a lot of money, right? So this shouldn't be a big problem for you. But if you look at what's called the minimum wage, what a lot of people make in, say, lower type jobs, working at a, say, fast food restaurant or maybe even a grocery store, the minimum wage, Oscar said, in Miami is $10 an hour. $10 an hour. So if you work, say, 40 hours a week, which is a standard work week, 4 weeks a month, that's 160 hours a month times $10 an hour. That's $1,600 a month you're going to make if you work at minimum wage in Miami, Florida. But that's $1,600 a month before taxes. So once the government gets their share of taxes, Social Security, you may pay insurance, you're not going to make that much money. So if it costs $3,570 a month to live in Miami and you only make $1,600 a month in minimum wage, how are you going to make it? So either you have to work multiple jobs and or also have roommates, maybe that split or share the cost of rent. Maybe you don't have a car. You have to take the bus or ride with somebody. So for example, here in Texas, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, so it's less than Miami. So if you work 40 hours a week, 4 weeks a month, You only make $1,160 a month, and it costs $2,710 a month to live. It's the same thing. You can't make it. You can't make it here in the United States working on minimum wage or working for minimum wage. So that's why one thing too, it's very important to have either education, you go to college, you can get a better job, or you have a skill, go to a trade school or get maybe you're a plumber, electrician, somebody like that, a technician. You need to have some type of skill that will help you out. So that's why it's people come to the United States thinking, I'm just going to make a whole bunch of money, save money. But a lot of people here in the United States, we say, live paycheck to paycheck. They spend everything they make. They can't save any money. And it's not easier. So another expression in English is, the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. You may think things are nice and rosy, we say, and great. But it may not be as great as you think it is as far as making money. Maybe other things might be better, freedoms you have, freedom of speech. But there are also other problems you need to take into consideration. So in order to actually make enough money, I did another calculation, to make enough money to pay for all your costs here in Houston, you really have to have a job that's going to pay you at least $16.94 an hour. See, versus the $7.25, you need to make more, twice or almost 3 times minimum wage just to kind of make it here in Houston. And if you live in Miami, you need to actually make $22.31 an hour just to pay the cost for $3,570 a month to live. And it's very difficult maybe to find a job making that amount of money, depending on what type of education and what type of skill set you have. So that's kind of the comparison I wanted to do and wanted to go over with you and let you know, well, how much does it really cost to live here in the United States? And one last thing I'll close on, I've been watching, say, a lot of videos on YouTube, and the big topic of discussion, I know kind of in Mexico, is that the people from the U.S., especially during the pandemic, everybody started working from home using their computers and internet. They didn't need to go to jobs. A lot of people started going to Mexico or moving to Mexico, maybe to live permanently or to live temporarily. And they can work from home wherever they are in Mexico, but earn pay or money in U.S. dollars. Their dollars go further. They can pay for an apartment, a house. Rent in Mexico is much cheaper. Maybe food is much cheaper, medicine. And they can live there much cheaper on their U.S. salary. But this has, I guess, it's a two-edged sword maybe. Some people like it, some people don't. You know, I've read some people interviewed in Mexico City or Mexico. Some people say, hey, it's okay. They maybe bring money with them. They inject money into the economy. But other people say, no, it's not a good thing because they drive up prices, they drive up rent, and they make it much difficult for the average person, say in Mexico City or Mexico, to live. They have to move away from certain areas of the city. Well, there are 3 things you can do for me. 1, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and 3, tell your friends. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Learn Everyday English. Hope you found this interesting, and have a good weekend, wherever you are in this blue marble that we call the world. And again, thanks for watching this episode of Learn Everyday English. Hey, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.